welcome. Today I'm going to be telling you guys all about my favorite paranormal devices. So if you know a little bit about it, this is going to be a review for you. But if you know nothing, then let me inform you. I have some really cool stuff that I want to show you. I'm going to be talking about 3 of them. I'll give you a brief history and I'll tell you what all each device does. So the first device that we're going to be talking about is the Melmeter. And this model specifically is the Mel-REM ATDD. The device afterwards is going to be a psb-11 spirit box with adjustable noise control. What makes this one really cool is that noise control, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. And then last but not least, you guys, we are going to be talking about the Ovilus 5. This one was a little bit of an investment, but it is so cool and easily my favorite device. And I have gotten some pretty cool things come through on it about that. Anyway, without further ado, we have the Melmeter REM ATD. So, ATDD. So, what does that mean? In case you guys don't know. REM stands for radiating electromagnetic field. So this antenna right here, when you put it up, this device actually acts as a REM pod, a trigger object, if you will, for entities or spirits to come and touch that antenna if they want to communicate with you in that way. And it sets the device off. You know, spirits and entities are widely believed in between paranormal investigators to be able to manipulate electromagnetic fields, and actually diving right into that, that is exactly what this device was created and intended for originally. So the original Melmeter, which this one is not original because it is a REM pod in itself, as well as being able to, you know, ATDD, so being able to measure ambient temperature deviation detection. So the original one was just intended to read EMF readings as well as temperature. Now, the engineer behind this device is super awesome. His name is Gary Galka, and as the years have gone by, he has created the Melmeter over and over again, except he has layered it with different functions. So this model has, like I mentioned, the REM function as well as the ambient temperature deviation detection function, but I have also seen devices that have shadow detection, as well as there's one more thing, but it escapes me right now. I should probably look into that, but you know, with time they have become layered, and it is a good investment for paranormal investigators that kind of believe in maybe saving money. So if you want to kind of consolidate and kind of get an all-encompassing device to do many different things for you, then this, you know, the different various Melmeters would probably be like a good investment for you. However, as a paranormal investigator myself, I kind of believe it's so important to have different devices, because sometimes you will get the same evidence coming through on different devices, and then you can really validate your experience, and, you know, not to mention any kind of psychic or intuitive hits that you yourself with your own body are getting. So devices are just awesome in that way, and honestly, the more you have, the more you can kind of capture evidence and kind of see, are things conclusive or inconclusive for you. Anyways, EMF. You know, I'm just throwing that kind of, those letters around, and in case anybody doesn't know what EMF stands for, that is electromagnetic fields. So where do they come from? Sometimes they're naturally occurring, sometimes they are coming out of devices and you know, wiring in the wall of a home, you know, microwaves, television sets, especially when things are plugged in, because, you know, when they're plugged in and turned off, even they can set, you know, significant EMFs off. But it's pretty wild if you go up to a power line to see how much, what kind of spikes you can get from that. It's a lot. Same thing with, you know, radio cell towers. It's crazy. But yeah, there's a big difference between, you know, investigating off the grid in a cabin in the woods, for example, or inside somebody's home. Traditionally speaking, many people have devices, and as I mentioned, like wires in the walls, and that's kind of unavoidable. But when you're doing your baseline readings before an investigation, it's always good to kind of take note of that and take a baseline to see what's kind of natural for that environment and what's not. Because as I mentioned, if you are investigating off the grid in a cabin in the woods, of course it's going to be strange if you do get huge spikes on a millimeter, for example. That could be paranormal. When you're inside somebody's home, it's kind of dicey, and that's why you have to, be as clear as possible when you're doing that baseline to avoid false positives later. But yeah, that's a little bit about the millimeter, and I know I kind of went quickly, so hopefully I explained it well enough for you guys to understand. But that's definitely a good device to have around. And I guess a little bit of history about this device too. So Gary Galka is awesome, and he actually created this device. He was inspired to create it because he wanted to reach out to his deceased daughter, who unfortunately tragically passed away in a car accident, and so he was able to create that. And I love the story behind that. And so I just love that device, and I love what it stands for, and I love what it does. So the spirit boxes, if I'm not mistaken, were also created by Gary Galka, and if you are interested in getting the device yourself, if you don't already have it, then his website is Pro Measure. So you can look into that. Yeah. But yeah, this is the psb-11, and it's special because it has that adjustable noise control. So let me show you. The adjustable noise control is on the back, and this one's kind of loaded in the sense that it's not only one sweep that you can do, but it's a dual sweep. So, but let me slow it down, because I completely get that some of you guys might not know what this device even does. It is a spirit box, which means that this is pretty much a radio, but it's a special type of radio, well, a dual radio, because you can sweep it, not only forward, but also backward, and at the same time. And so when you sweep it, it is worth it for me to say too, although you can sweep it forward, many investigators choose to sweep backwards because you just get better results that way. And it is pretty rare to, so it's pretty rare when you get the same voice come through multiple times, as well as full-on sentences in the same vocal tone and whatnot. So that's pretty rare. So if you do catch that, then you've really caught something awesome. But yeah, you need some patience with this. And also have to avoid false positives in case you are getting interference from like an actual radio station. But the best way to do that is, I don't know if you guys have ever checked out Faraday bags, but those help immensely when you're using spirit boxes, and it helps you to get clearer results. So that's kind of just a pro tip in case you wanted to make an investment for this. You could also get yourself a Faraday bag, and that is kind of like a cool mesh type looking bag. Is there anything else I want to tell you about this device? Oh yes, okay, so this is the psb-11 with the adjustable noise control. The two other models that preceded this one were the SB7 and the SB11, and with those, if you did want to go out and make the investment and buy those, remember that with this guy's predecessors, you're going to have to buy a separate processor and plug it into those. Because this one has that adjustable noise control, you do not need to buy a processor for this one because it's got it internally inside of it. Now that I told you a little bit about this, I do want to tell you a little bit about this device.